Healing is rarely loud or dramatic. It doesn't arrive with a bang or a flash of lightning that makes the world pause in awe. Instead, it moves softly, like the first light of dawn creeping into a dark room. Many people wait for a clear, grand sign that they've healed. No more sadness, no more pain, a perfect sense of peace. But the truth is, real healing is much quieter and gentler. It's not the absence of pain, it's the transformation of it. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history, once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." What he meant was that personal growth and emotional healing are born through our struggles. Pain is not our enemy, it's our greatest teacher. Often we think we're still broken because we can't yet see the light shining brightly. But in reality, healing begins the moment we stop trying to return to who we were before the pain and start becoming who we're meant to be after it. True healing doesn't shout, it whispers. It shows itself not in grand achievements or perfect happiness, but in small, quiet shifts that happen deep inside us. These shifts are signs that you've grown more than you realize. Let's explore 6 of those signs. 6 ways your soul tells you that you're healing, even if you don't notice it yet. 1. You no longer chase closure. Once upon a time, you may have been desperate for answers. You replayed every conversation in your mind, searching for what went wrong, why they left, why things ended, why life turned out differently than you hoped. You wanted explanations, apologies, and closure. You thought that understanding the why would help you move on. But somewhere along the way, you grew tired of chasing. You realized that closure doesn't come from others. It comes from within. True closure isn't a neat ending or an apology that makes everything make sense. It's the quiet decision to stop bleeding for what no longer exists. Carl Jung believed that every person we meet represents a part of ourselves that we need to understand. When those people leave, they take the lessons with them. That's your closure. When you can finally walk away without resentment, without checking your phone, without hoping they'll come back, you've healed more than you think. You no longer seek explanations because you've accepted that not every story is meant to continue. Some people weren't meant to understand you, they were meant to awaken you. And when you reach that place of acceptance, that's when you know your heart has started to heal. 2. You no longer need to be understood. There was a time when being misunderstood hurt deeply. You wanted people to see you, to truly understand your intentions, your heart, your struggles. Being misjudged felt like a wound. But healing brings a quiet wisdom. Not everyone is meant to understand you, and that's okay. Jung once said that what people see in you often mirrors what they refuse to face in themselves. If someone judges your sensitivity, it may be because they fear their own. If they mock your depth, it's because they are uncomfortable with their own emotions. When you no longer need to be understood, you reclaim your power. You realize that your worth doesn't depend on others' opinions or validation. You no longer explain yourself just to be accepted. You understand that peace doesn't come from being seen. It comes from seeing yourself clearly. You've healed when someone misjudges you, and you can stay calm. When their misunderstanding no longer shakes your self-worth, that calm, steady strength within you, that's healing. It's the quiet confidence that your truth doesn't need to be proven. It simply exists. 3. You stop romanticizing the past. At one point, you may have lived in the echoes of what once was. Old songs, messages, and memories play like a film in your head. You kept wondering, what if things had gone differently? You wanted to return to a time that felt safer or happier, but healing changes the way you see the past. Slowly, you begin to understand that the past is not a place to return to. It's a teacher. Every heartbreak, every failure, every painful silence shaped who you are now. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Healing means becoming aware of those old patterns and emotional cycles so you no longer repeat them unconsciously. You start to see that what once hurt you has taught you something essential about yourself. When nostalgia stops hurting, when you can look back without longing, only with understanding, that's a powerful sign you've healed. You no longer wish to rewrite the story because you know it made you who you are. You've awakened to the truth that the past is not your home, it's your foundation. 4. Your solitude no longer feels lonely. There was a time when silence felt unbearable. You filled every quiet moment with noise, music, conversations, social media, anything to avoid being alone with your thoughts. But as healing deepened, something beautiful happened. You began to find peace in solitude. Being alone stopped feeling like punishment. It started to feel like coming home. You discovered that solitude isn't emptiness. It's a sacred space where you meet yourself fully. Carl Jung taught that wholeness doesn't come from rejecting our shadow, but from embracing it. Your shadow is the part of you that holds your fears, regrets, and shame. True healing happens when you stop running from those parts and learn to sit with them, listen to them, and forgive them. You've healed more than you realize when your own company feels safe, when you can spend hours alone and feel connected rather than abandoned. Because the truth is, you were never truly alone. You just hadn't met yourself yet. 5. You respond, not react. Emotional maturity is one of the most powerful signs of healing. There was a time when every harsh word or moment of rejection triggered an emotional storm. You reacted instantly, letting pain and fear control your actions. Now you pause, you breathe. You observe your feelings without being consumed by them. That simple pause between impulse and action is the birthplace of peace. Jung believed that healing occurs when we stop being possessed by our unconscious emotions, when anger, jealousy, and fear no longer control us. You've healed when you can say, I understand why I feel this way, but I won't let it decide how I act. This doesn't mean you don't feel hurt anymore. It means you trust yourself enough to hold that hurt gently. You speak softer, you forgive faster, you choose understanding over argument. That quiet shift, from reacting in fear to responding with awareness, is evolution. It's the integration of opposites within you, as Jung described. Not cutting off the parts you dislike, but bringing them into harmony. You're no longer fighting yourself. You're listening to yourself. That's real healing. 6. You begin to create instead of escape. Before healing, pain often drives us to escape. We distract ourselves through entertainment, work, relationships, anything to avoid feeling the ache inside. But healing turns pain into a teacher, not a prison. You stop running from your emotions and start expressing them. You may write, paint, sing, or simply sit in silence and let your heart speak. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole through self-expression. When your soul stops hiding behind masks and begins to create from its truth, that's transformation. Your pain no longer consumes you. It inspires you. You begin to see that the very things that once broke you are now helping you build. You use your story to help others, to create meaning, to connect. The chaos that once hurt you becomes the clay from which you shape something beautiful. When you can transform suffering into creation, you've healed more deeply than most people ever will. You've learned to speak the language of your soul. Healing, a quiet transformation. Healing isn't about perfection, it's about consciousness. It doesn't mean your past disappears or your pain is erased. It means your relationship with it has changed. You can revisit old memories without being shattered by them. You can see people who once hurt you and feel calm, not bitterness. Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You've done just that. You've faced your darkness, not to destroy it, but to understand it. Healing is messy. It's filled with nights of confusion and mornings of small hope. But slowly, something shifts. You start to notice you're not checking their profile anymore. You're sleeping better. You're smiling again without pretending. You're choosing peace over chaos. You stop craving the storms that once defined you because you finally understand that peace isn't boring. It's beautiful. The world, which once felt like a battlefield, now feels softer. You walk with grace instead of defense. You no longer fight for love or attention. You give it freely, calmly, without fear. Healed people love differently. They no longer cling or beg to be chosen. They love without losing themselves. Because they've learned that love isn't meant to rescue you, it's meant to reflect you. When your love becomes calm, not desperate, when you can say no without guilt and walk away without bitterness, you've reached a deep level of healing. You no longer look for others to fill your emptiness because you've built a home within yourself. And when your old patterns like chasing chaos or confusing anxiety for excitement start to feel foreign, that's another sign. You no longer find comfort in pain because peace feels natural now. You notice that others act from their own wounds, and instead of judging them, you respond with compassion. That's emotional intelligence born from pain, transformed into wisdom. Conclusion. You are the light. Healing doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It happens quietly. In the way you breathe before speaking, in the way you choose peace over proving your point, in the way you sleep without replaying old memories. Carl Jung believed that every person carries within them a self that is always trying to heal, always trying to bring balance. You don't need to chase healing. You just need to stop resisting it. Healing is not linear. It's a spiral. You may revisit old pain, but it won't break you anymore. It will simply remind you how far you've come. One day you'll look at yourself and realize that you no longer crave what once poisoned you. You no longer chase chaos. You are no longer fighting for peace. You are peace. That is the quiet miracle of healing. It doesn't make you someone new. It helps you remember who you truly are. You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose to become after it.